Hi, my name's Jen. Welcome to my channel, All of My Plants. Today I am going to answer some questions. I'm going to answer questions about the plant wall that's behind me and how I made that, how I take care of my jungle cactus, and a little bit about my birds. So, the plant wall you see back there, I will bring you closer to it. It is showing some wear and tear. I do use it occasionally. I had it in a different place in a different room and it got bumped quite a bit, so some of the stuff has come off. It's something you have to maintain. But yeah, I will get you closer to it and I will tell you about how I've made it. This is what the back of the wall is made of. It's very lightweight. It's like chicken wire. You can get it, it's plastic. You can get it at like hardware stores. I think I got this at Tractor Supply. You might be able to get it at like big box stores, I'm not sure, but it comes in a big roll. I also use the same thing for my moss poles, so it comes in a huge roll. I just cut it to size, however I wanted it. I laid it out on plastic sheeting in my garage because there is some fumes involved. Actually, I have a shed. It's not a garage. It's a shed that we use as a garage. But I laid it out on a big table in there, and I got like I think 8 cans of great stuff, like spray foam is what I used on that. I took plastic pots, like disposable plastic nursery pots, whatever sizes I wanted. I think that one is probably 3 foot wide by 4 foot tall, and it has 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, it has 12 like cubby holes, 12 pots in it, and I think they go from 2-inch to 8-inch pots that I used in there, maybe 2-inch to 6-inch, but it's just a variety of them. I would have thought that out better in hindsight. I probably would have done all 4 to 6-inch pots, because 2-inch pots is not something I often have on a wall because it dries quickly and I don't want to water it every day. I don't spray that, no matter where it's hanging. I never missed anything in there. I never get it wet. I do put wet pots back in it, something to be careful of. You would think it would be fairly watertight. It's not. They will drip down the back of that wall. But yeah, I put it on a big sheet of plastic. I sprayed the whole thing with great stuff. Then I stuck in pots here and there, like right into the great stuff. And then I just kind of went over top of it. I trimmed some and shaped it a bit. Some of it I didn't really worry about. And then what I covered the wall with was actual sphagnum moss with like the sheet moss that you can buy also in big box stores. You might be able to get it from local nurseries. I know you can get it online. So like sheet moss like that. Also, I've glued bark on there and charcoal, just odds and ends like that. So, and you could put wood in there, whatever you wanted to, you know, to suit your needs or the way you want it to look. You could also carve it to look like rock and paint it with dry lock. Dry lock is semi-waterproof for that purpose. Like that's what I'm going to paint the inside of the little terrarium cabinet that I've been working on. And it works really good for that. I just chose to go with moss because I kind of like the way it looks. Moss, like I said, it does require maintaining because the moss will fall off. When I say I glued it on there, I used a clear silicone for an adhesive. Once again, I kept it laid right flat down and just went over the whole thing. Literally just smeared silicone everywhere. Used gloves because it's going to be messy. Smeared silicone everywhere, and then I just pressed the moss, the charcoal, the bark, the sticks, whatever. I pressed them in where I wanted them. I'm going to go ahead and take you off there so we can get up closer and you can see what I mean when I say that there's wear and tear and it requires maintenance. I'm also using it to clip a light on right now, but you can see I have some stuff just kind of sitting in there. There's a pink princess, a begonia, an anthurium, which is not looking great, and a string of hearts propagation. And then over there, like right up underneath the light, is Pubicalyx, Hoya Pubicalyx. Now, see, here's the truth of it. You can see I left it all the way around because that's actually what it's hanging by up there. Definitely hang it from a stud. It's not very heavy. I can pick it up and walk all around with this thing. I can twirl it like a like one of them sign spinners for insurance company for insurance companies. But it's held up pretty well. I don't know, 3-4 years ago I made it, I guess. But you can see, especially along the edge, things have fallen off here and there. It's gotten thin, and you can see the foam poking through, especially up here, if I move my finger. So yeah, I've got to pull it down from there, take it outside, and smear some more stuff on it. Down in here you can see. But yeah, so, and then the pots, let me pull one out. We'll just lift this guy out of here. The pots are still in there. I don't actually ever plant anything in it. I just take the pot and drop it in the pot. Some of them don't fit because I used, like I said, I put small ones in there. I put bigger ones in there. If I had it to do again, which I probably will do another one at some point, I would make them all bigger like this, so I could drop small pots, big pots, whatever I wanted to in there. But it looks really cool, especially with like trailing plants in it. At one point I had Hoyas. What else did I have in there? I had Hoyas, trailing philodendrons, some pothos. I had things like that in there, and it looked great. Now it's, I don't like it without trailing plants in it, I think. I prefer it with trailing plants, or plants that kind of flop over like this. Don't look at his leaf that's going. We're just gonna pluck it off. There we go. It's, like I said, it's very lightweight. I don't spray at all. I guess you could mist it and it probably wouldn't hurt it, but you can see like this stuff just comes off. And I guess I did take a vacuum cleaner to it after I first made it to like pull off anything that was gonna fall off. Stuff still falls off all the time. If I had taken my time, this is the first one I've done, so if I had taken my time and worked harder on making the adhesive, or finding a better adhesive, or really getting it on there, it probably would have held up better. But if you only have to maintain it once in 3 or 4 years, that's not terrible. I guess you could trim off. I left the green there, the netting. Now the plastic just peels right off. I used like the plastic you would use for like crawling around under houses, like a vapor barrier type plastic. And it just peels right off, so that's reusable. That's not something I have to buy again the next time I decide to do this. Now the great stuff is, I think it was probably $6 or $7 a can. I used 3 packages of the sheet moss, which is the green you see, and then I used 1 package of the sphagnum moss, the kind that you rehydrate. And I actually did put it on damp. I don't know if that's an issue or not. I mean, it stuck pretty good to some places. You can see it on that one there. It stuck very well there. I don't know. But, so, and then bark and other odds and ends, like you can see some there. It held up okay. It's on there. Oh, it was on there. But, I didn't use much of that. I was just picking it out of like a bag of bark that I had around here, like Better Grow, I think, like orchid bark or orchid potting mix. So yeah, it's held up okay. There's also some Spanish moss there, which I'm pretty sure is dead. It was live Spanish moss, but so that's my plant wall. It needs some tidying up for sure. It's had better days. I do like it though. I just want to I need some small pots of trailing plants to put in there, or you know, small to medium-ish. I guess I have some if I would just look around. I mean, I'm surrounded by trailing plants now. Why can't I put some of those in there? I wonder how that moss I bought would do in there. I wonder if it would attach to the wall eventually. Because that would be cool. Next question was my potting mix. People ask what I put in my potting mix. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what it looks like. It's down here. This is what my potting mix looks like. It is bark and charcoal and perlite, and I basically use whatever kind of soil I can get my hands on. It's usually a basic, like they consider it an indoor potting mix, but I wouldn't use it without amendments, except for maybe for peace lily or Calathea maranta, things like that. For the most part, I use this for everything. I have planted plants in it that won't be happy drying that quickly, but I just increase my watering. I like this mix because it does retain some moisture, but it's generally fast draining. Other things I add. I also add mosquito bits because I hate fungus gnats, and it does work. I add you might be able to see some blue spots in there, maybe, I'm not sure. I also add a slow release fertilizer. I add systemics. Now the way I add the fertilizer and the systemics, I add both of them. I add about 1 tablespoon per gallon, which probably seems like a lot, but so far it's working for me. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Mosquito bits, I probably add about the same, maybe a tablespoon, maybe a little less, teaspoon per gallon. So that's what it looks like. And I'll actually show you the brands that I use, because I think I have all of them around. Not that the brand matters at all. You can use whatever you find, because I use different brands sometimes because it's what's available, you know. What's available to me is what I use. This is the systemic I use. I get it from Thomas Gardens in New Church, Virginia. I don't think this is available in the state of Maryland. It just says systemic houseplant insect control, aphids, whiteflies, and other listed insects up to 8 weeks. For container plants. I don't know what other listed insects, but I put it in there and it's okay. I haven't had thrips in a while. Okay, my super box of goodies. The mosquito bits I use, they're just mosquito bits. I ordered them on Amazon. I've had this for a while. I hear that they do expire. I don't know, I haven't noticed it yet. I think I've had these about a year. Biological mosquito control. I don't know if it actually works for mosquitoes, but it does seem to work just fine for fungus gnats. And then when I say I use charcoal, I use different kinds. This is activated charcoal. It's actually for fish tanks. You can get it like aquarium stores. This is a finer, like smaller charcoal. So I use that one. And then I have this Espoma horticultural charcoal. This is bigger pieces than the other one. It's not over much of it left. I'm gonna be covered in charcoal dust. Let me show you. So this is about this size, whereas the other is quite small. I like the Espoma perlite. I know a lot of people don't like perlite. I am a big fan of it. I use it for propagations as well, which I suppose if you've watched my channel you've seen. But this particular perlite is a little bit larger than, say, like Miracle Grow. Not much, but it's a little bit larger, a little bit more coarse. And I do prefer that. This is the bark I prefer to use in my mix. It's better grow. And it's not only is it orchid bark, it's fir bark, but it also has charcoal and coarse perlite in it. This is the perlite in this is even larger than the perlite, the Espoma that I was showing you. And we'll take a peek what this looks like. The only thing about this one is some of the bark pieces are enormous. I would rather they weren't so enormous, but yeah. And then in addition to that one, I also use this one. And this is another orchid parting mix. This is Miracle Grow. I know a lot of people don't love Miracle Grow. I don't have any issue with it. Or at least not that I know yet. Who knows, things might change in the future. But this bark is thinner. It's not as chunky, or I like this one. I like it. I'll show you a handful of it. I'm dropping it everywhere. But yeah, that's what this one looks like. And then literally any potting mix. I think this is another Miracle Grow. You could use peat, you could use cocoa, cocoa coir, you know, the ground up cocoa chips, whatever. Just something that's fine and more moisture retentive. That is why I put this in there. I don't know what the basis of this one is. Let's see. Peat moss, coir, perlite, and fertilizer, and a wetting agent is what's in this one. I'm not really picky about the brand. The only thing I try not to do is like Cactus and Succulent mix, I don't put that in there because it's, yet again, it's another thing that's going to drain quickly. This is the Cactus and Succulent mix I use. I also amend it with perlite, etc. This one is sphagnum peat moss and a spider. Sphagnum peat moss, perlite, sand, and fertilizer. So, yeah. And then the slow release fertilizer I use is Stay Green All Purpose. I think it says up to 6 months. Ideal for indoor flower, shrubs, trees, guaranteed not to burn. It's 19-6-12. So that's 19 nitrogen, 6 phosphate, and 12 potassium. Yeah, that. So I've had it a while. When I first got it on the channel, I was like, I don't know if I want to use this or not, because I had not used a slow release before, or a continuous release. So I was kind of worried I might burn my plants, because not only I do this, but on top of that, I also fertilize every time I water. Every time. Year round. I just pull back on it a little bit, maybe half the strength in winter. And then I will also tell you, because I finally sat down and figured it out, the ratio I use. I use about 3 parts bark, 1 part perlite, 1 part charcoal, and then the other amendments like the mosquito bits, the continuous feed fertilizer, and the systemic, I use them based on the amount that I have mixed. So I usually don't ever mix less than a gallon. When I mix soil, I mix this whole container. I don't know how many gallons it holds. I'd say 6. I'm gonna say 6 is about what I'd mix in there. But so I'd put, if I'm making that whole thing and there's no fertilizer or anything like that already mixed in there, or residual, if I'm mixing the whole thing, I would probably use 6 tablespoons of the systemic, 6 tablespoons of the fertilizer, and I don't know, maybe 4-ish on the mosquito bits, somewhere in that neighborhood. But yeah, that's basically how I mix it up, and I use that, like I said, for pretty much everything. It's definitely geared towards my philodendrons, my Hoyas, things that like a chunky, well-draining substrate with a little bit of moisture. And then someone else had asked how I care for like Ripsalis, Epiphyllum, basically jungle cactus, holiday cactus, things like that. Those I give them very high light, as much as they can stand. Some get direct sun. None of them are throwing a fit about it, but they might change color. They might stress from that. So I give them as much light as they can stand. If the substrate is dry, I water it. What substrate do I put them in? I put them in anything that's fit for Hoyas. Usually seems to work very well for my Epiphyllum, Ripsalis, all of those. This guy here is an Epiphyllum immature orchid cactus that flowers white, apparently. I just got this one. Tag's still in it for proof. I don't know if the video where I got it has come out yet. But I water them if they're dry. I don't keep them waterlogged or anything. I try to make sure that they have airflow. I think that's very important for anything that's cactus and succulenty. And that's not to say that I don't allow them to hang out in a humid area, because they do like humidity. That I've noticed they grow well in warm, humid areas. They can stand cooler areas just fine. The thing I will say is, if you are giving them less light, be careful about your water, because, you know, they only need to be constantly damp, or, you know, staying damp, retaining some moisture in the soil if they're actively growing. And if they're not getting very bright light, they might slow down on that growth. I feed them the same way I do the rest of my plants. I might draw back a little bit more on the winter on these guys with the fertilizer, because I don't notice much growth in any of them really. Some of the ones that are flowering, I cannot speak today. Some of the ones that are flowering, if they're flowering and I can see that they're getting ready to flower, or I can see some growth on them, I will continue to feed them as I normally would throughout the winter. But if it seems dormant, I pull back, way back on that fertilizer and just let them rest, if that's what they want to do. As far as flowering goes, some of them, they'll just flower when they're ready. But I find that a cooler a cooler nighttime temperature and a natural light cycle, something that mimics the natural cycle at the time of year when your particular jungle cactus would be flowering anyway, will help with that. That's why I think holiday cactus in particular come to mind, like Christmas cactus, Thanksgiving cactus, Easter cactus. I think that's why they do well in a window that time of year, because they do get the cooler nighttime temperatures. They're getting a more natural light cycle because it's, you know, they're getting actual daylight rather than a grow light. Now you can mimic it with a grow light if you know what that plant wants to flower. You can mimic that, set it on a timer and let it eat, and it'll do what it do. So if you're trying to get them to flower, that's one thing to keep in mind, is the light cycle. Also the cooler nighttime temperatures. I'm not talking about throw it out in the freezer or anything, but you know, cooler temperatures do help several plants actually to trigger blooming. They're not terribly difficult plants. I don't think I've ever had pests on any. No, I have had scale on one. It came to me with the scale. It's not too terribly difficult to remove. You can usually just kind of scratch it off with a thumbnail. I would recommend spraying the plant or treating the plant in whatever your preferred pest management is, if you've found any pests on them. But overall, they don't seem to be bothered by much, at least in my experience. I've never found mealybugs or anything like that on them. It might be a thing, I'm not sure. Not something I've personally dealt with. Some other things to keep in mind with your jungle cactuses: they do dry rot. By that I mean you can underwater it, or have the root shrink and shrivel, and then when you go to rehydrate it, your plant will start turning yellow, and you're like, what's going on there? That's a sign that something's going on with your roots. Either way, whether it's overwatering in general, period, your leaves will turn yellow, or if you've underwatered it and then tried to rehydrate it and those roots just can't take it up anymore, your leaves will turn yellow. I say leaves, they're not true leaves, but the appendages, I guess you understand what I'm saying, but they will turn yellow. Some parts of it may brown, but yellowing is going to be probably your first tip off that something's going on. And what I would recommend there is to get that plant out of that pot and check out those roots. If they're thin and stringy and pieces are stripping off, they're toast. But from what I can tell, they're easy to reroot. I just showed my hurricane cactus not long ago and I dropped it, so I'm actually propagating that. I'll show you. This is, I believe, cruciform spiralis, Ripsalis cruciform spiralis, or hurricane cactus. And I knocked it over. You can see I literally just took the pieces that are broken, tucked them into this here perlite, and it's only been a few days. They're not really doing much yet, but they're not rotting. It's a process that's just wait longer. It's going to be okay. Just wait longer. So it may take a little while, but you'll get roots back on it. And I think that's pretty much where that's at with all of that. So that's how I take care of jungle cactus in general, just the whole, I do them all kind of the same. And birds, we have 8 total. This is Dilly Dilly, want to pup? Yeah. He talks up a storm, not that you'd know. He's probably about 6 years old. He's a monk parakeet, or a pooping parakeet. Monk parakeet, or Quaker parrot they call him. He's the regular green form. We also have a blue one. I can't handle him as well. This is the bird least likely to bite me, but he does every day. All the time. But he's the least likely to bite me. He's my buddy. He talks a lot. Yeah, he's grumbling now. I don't know if you can hear him. Hi. His favorite thing to do is preen my fingernails. He wants to make sure they're nice and clean underneath. He also likes to peel off nail polish, which is part of the reason why my fingernails always look like they do. But he's a good egg. He's a good egg. Parrots make terrible pets. They're loud. They're messy. They're a lot of work. You don't really want them to get bored. They develop behavioral issues a lot of time if they get bored. But I love them. Most of our pets are hand-me-down pets, which sounds terrible. I personally don't think there's such a thing as a used animal. They're not used up ever. So a lot of ours they're adopted. We've gotten them because other people didn't want to deal with them anymore, basically. or couldn't afford the veterinary care, we had a dog given to us with parvo. She had active parvo at the time, and she survived. So the birds, it's just they have behavioral issues. They bite, they scream, they're destructive. Some of our birds can get out of the cages, and you will notice there are locks on the cages. If you ever see any of them in the background, there are locks on them. Yeah, because they know how to open the latches and escape. Yeah, and that's not great when we're not home. So, right? Yeah, but beautiful, yes. Good companions, yes. They'll keep you company forever. Yes, you're so fluffy. Yes. They are sponges. This one here, like I think I mentioned, his name is Dilly. Dilly. His cage used to sit kind of where you could hear a TV pretty regularly, and there was a commercial on at the time. It was a Bud Light or Budweiser, I can't remember, but it was this guy in like medieval garb, and he was like, "Dilly, dilly, to the pit of misery." He says that. Both of the Quakers say it. Yes, yes. Both of the Quaker parakeets say it. They both say, "Dilly, dilly, to the pit of misery." They also say, "It's okay, it's fine. Night, night. Want a snack? How's your water?" They say so many things, don't you? He says, "Good baby." He claims he's an eagle. He says he loves me. He asks me for kisses. I'll try to catch some clips of them talking at some point. I think every bird in the house talks except for, I said we had 8. 2 are parakeets. We have a lovebird, a cockatiel, 2 of these dudes, yeah, and 2 cockatoos. I think I said cockatiel. But anyway, 8 birds total. They all speak except for the budgies and the lovebird. But yeah. Yeah. What doing? What doing? Give me a kiss. Thank you. Give me a kiss. Thank you. Give me a kiss. Thank you. But yeah, he's a good bird. He's a really good bird. I mean, all birds are naughty and mischievous, and but I love him, even if he does try to. I don't have him on my. He'll usually sit on my shoulder, but he'll bite through the microphone wire, or rip out my nose ring, or anything foreign on my body. He feels like it needs to go. He tries to pick off, like I have a lot of freckles and moles and stuff. He'll try to pick them off for me. Scabs. If I have injured myself, he will rip off a scab quick. He does that, and my female cockatoo does that. Yeah. Give me a kiss. He also likes to keep me well preened. He has birdseed breath. I'm gonna go put him back. I'm waiting for my husband to bring Jake.
He's on the wrong hand. Hold on. Sit here.
And then this is Jake. He's our oldest bird. He's a greater sulfur-crested cockatoo. He's the one that bit me in the face, and the reason I have a scar under my eye. He's very shy right now. He never comes in this room, so he's probably in quiet mode, but I'll put in some clips of him talking and playing. He is the life of the party, and he knows it. And he always wants to be in the middle of everything that's going on everywhere. He's also our loudest bird. If he's throwing a fit in the house, my husband and I are outside, we can be all the way out at the front ditch bank of our yard, which we have a big yard. It's way out there, I assure you. And you can still hear him hollering. So that's a bottle cap that he's just poked a hole through with his beak. He doesn't bite often, but he's also the one I've been bit most by, and that's just because his mood changes like that. Let me see if I can get him to do something for you. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. Yeah, he shows off. He talks quite a bit, actually. He says, "Hi, Jake. What you doing? What you got?" I think he says, "I got it. Are you ready? Step up." He says a lot of things. He also mimics like an old school, like older folks will remember the mid-90s cell phone, or not cell phone, cordless phone. He does an alarm clock, a tea kettle. He hasn't picked up much since he's been here. How many years have we had him?
4.
4 years? I think about 4 years. February was 4 years, right? Yeah, he's like 28 years old. So, we do have cats and dogs. They are both scared of him. The cats.
They live to be around 80 years old.
Yeah, they live to be around 80.
Human life.
Yeah, 80 years in our time frame. So, my husband and I, we're you know, not spring chickens anymore. So we actually have made arrangements for what's going to happen to him when we die. You know, hopefully we won't have to worry about it for a while yet, but he's showing off. He sees my husband flapping his arms out there. What you got? Pretty bird. He's got a mouthful of bottle caps, so he's not saying much right now. Can you see him? He's so cute. What you got? What do you got? He usually flicks it, loves money. He's like a dragon with his hoard. He likes shiny things, noisy things, bells, bottle caps. Everything can be a toy. He's gonna pull that knob off. He sees knobs on the washer, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But yeah, that's Jake. He's a really cool guy. I'll put in some clips of him talking and playing though.
Not Barry, the other one's Bill.
His uncle.
Uncle.
Yeah. So yeah, those are some of the questions that I've been asked. I tried to answer at least the ones I can think of. I haven't really scrolled through the comments to see what all I was asked, but those are the ones I can think of. So yeah, you've met a couple of my birds now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them below and I will make sure to answer them as soon as I can. And come back and check me out again soon. Bye.